a polarizing figure has hit 800 points. And I thought, you know what? Do a little video on that. Because he is a polarizing figure, and while I'm a Bruins fan, and I watched these guys right from their first day that they took the ice, you know, when guys like Rusty Klesla were seen as the future, Rick Nash has always been a guy that elicits opinions. He was the number one pick in the 2001 draft. He was drafted ahead of, and these are the only first-rounders that are still in the NHL from the draft, Kari Lehtinen, Jay Bouwmeester, Scotty Upshall, Alex Steen, and Cam Ward. That's it. That's all that's left. He was traded. We'll get into the trades first here. He was traded July 23rd, 2012. He'd been rumored to be on his way out of Columbus for a while. It was kind of a cloud hanging over him and over the franchise. And the rumors that he was going to New York had been going for quite a while. He was traded with Steven Delisle and a draft pick, a third-rounder that became Pavel Buchnevich, for Brandon Dubinsky, Artem Anisimov, great young defenseman Tim Erickson, can't wait till he hits the NHL, and a first-round draft pick that became Kirby Reichel. This is why when there's an exchange of draft picks, it doesn't always mean that the team that got the first-round draft pick wins. The team with the better scouting wins. And in this case, it was the Rangers with Buchnevich. I've heard Buchnevich, and to me, Buchnevich sounds weird, but fine, all right, fine. It's the last time I'll need to say it this video anyways. So Rick Nash comes into the league 2002, 2003, 74 games played, 17 goals, 22 assists, 39 points. Not fantastic. There was a lot of talk about how they'd expected more goals out of him. They expected a little more oomph, more fire in their lineup. Well, it came the next season, 03-04, right as they headed into the lockout. 80 games, 41 goals, 16 assists, 57 points. I think that's the most impressive Cy Young I've seen. I'll explain the Cy Young. Cy Young is a term given to players in the NHL who score more goals than assists. So when you look, it looks like a win-loss record of a pitcher who's pretty darn good. So 41 wins, 16 losses, that kind of thing. So Cy Young winner is a guy who gets a lot of goals. So if you ever hear that term in NHL, that's what it's about. And he is one of the best Cy Young winners in my lifetime. He only had 57 points that year, and he had 41 goals. That's truly impressive. But the joke that I made at the time was, well, he's nobody to pass it to. He's skating down the ice, and he's like, all right, and it's mine, because none of you guys are any good. Coming out of the lockout, played 54 games in 05-06, 31 goals, 23 assists, 54 points. Because Columbus was getting better. Slowly. Painfully slowly, Columbus was getting better. 06-07, 75 games played, 27 goals, 30 assists, 57 points. And this is kind of where it looked like, okay, he's set up now to be a 50 to 60 point player. Following season, 07-08, plays 80 games, 38 goals, 31 assists, 69 points. So the 38 goals, after the 41 goals, he's a goal scorer. He's a pure goal scorer. Now, in August of 2005, right here, coming out of the 41 goal season, he signs a contract with Columbus for 5 years for $27 million. So he's viewed under a lens of, this guy costs us $5 million a year. Let's see what he can do. 08-09. This is a rarity. This is, and I'm just double checking, this is the only time he scored more points than he had games played. 78 games played, 40 goals, 39 assists, 79 points overall. In the playoffs, he played 4 games, 1 goal, 2 assists, 3 points. Of course, that means Columbus got swept in the first round, and there was some heat on him. 09-10, 76 games, 33 goals, 34 assists, 67 points. 10-11, 75 games, 32 goals, 34 assists, 66 points. The thing is, we'll rewind. Before the 09-10 season, coming out of 08-09, where he had 79 points in 78 games, he signs an 8-year, $62.4 million contract. That's the one that's expiring at the end of this season. So he signs that contract in 2009, right here, and he had the 67 points, but it was seen as somewhat of a disappointment. And really, during the 11-12 season, he had 82 games played, 30 goals, 29 assists, 59 points. That was seen as a statistical disappointment. He had seasons of 69, 79, 67, 66. It had gone down to 59. The impression was, what are we paying this $7.8 million a year to this guy for? And I agreed with that. I was totally in agreement with that. Then the Rangers made this trade, and at the time I thought, wow, they're crazy. Because I thought Dubinsky had a really solid future, and Isimov had looked good already. I thought Eriksson was going to be a top four blue liner at some point. We all thought at some point that he would be, and then it just didn't happen. I think it's because the Flames wouldn't just hand him a spot. I think that's what happened. And then, the first rounder became Kirby Reichel, who is still in the minors. He's now a member of the Montreal Canadiens farm team. His first year in New York. So, still playing under the pressure of this contract. 44 games played, 21 goals, 21 assists, 42 points. In the playoffs, 12 games, 1 goal, 4 assists, 5 points. I am not going to lie and say that I'm really impressed with Rick Nash in the playoffs. I am not going to lie and blow sunshine anywhere because I think that Rick Nash is some kind of a hero in the playoffs. 13-14, 65 games played, 26 goals, 13 assists, 39 points. Absolute statistical right off a cliff. 25 games played in the Stanley Cup playoffs because they went to the Stanley Cup finals and played against LA. 3 goals, 7 assists, 20 points, or 10 points. 3 goals in 25 games for Rick Nash for $7.8 million. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. The following season, he makes up for it. 79 games played, 42 goals, 27 assists, 69 points. In the playoffs, he plays 19 games, 5 goals, 9 assists, 14 points. In those playoffs, I thought he was good. In those playoffs, I felt that he kind of made up for kind of looking like a passenger when they went to the finals the year before. Year after, 15-16, he plays 60 games, 15 goals, 21 assists, 36 points. 15 goals, 60 games, $7.8 million. This is the thing that's bothered me with Nash for a while. And it goes back to that season. Is that statistically, he has underperformed. Since he signed that contract in 2009, I would say he's underperformed here. I would say he's underperformed here and here. Notice this the last 3 years. 16-17, 67 games played, 23 goals, 15 assists, 38 points. 12 games played in the playoffs, 3 goals, 2 assists, 5 points. So he has 5 points in 12 games, the same as he'd had 4 years earlier. Now, this year, of course, 60 games, 18 goals, 10 assists, 28 points. Then he gets traded to Boston for Ryan Spooner, a guy who had 9 goals this year and has never had more than 13 in a season. That's why Spooner was getting traded. Spooner was seen as a guy who you could replace him internally. And he's making $2.8 million a year, and there was a belief that, he just wasn't living up to that contract. Ironically, the Bruins trade for a guy on an expiring contract who is seen as not performing up to that contract, and they trade a guy who's not performing up to that contract. In fact, they traded 2 because Matt Bolesky's in there. Ryan Lindgren, half-decent prospect thrown in so that they'll take Bolesky. A first-rounder this year and a 7th-rounder next year. Nash has played 2 whole games for Boston at the time of recording this. Got his goal, 1 point. That gives him 800. He's played 1,051 games. He has 435 goals, 365 assists. Again, remember, Cy Young. So more goals than assists. To put it in perspective, though, on the all-time goal list, he stands 68th. That wouldn't be impressive other than all of this was done in the era where goals are a lot harder to come by. So again, if we're going to prorate out the goals, and that's a fun thing to do, is figure out, okay, if he played in the 80s, then Nash would probably have 520 goals. Probably. These 40-goal seasons would be 50 goals. The 30-goal seasons would be 40 goals. And we'd probably be looking at a guy who's around 1,000 points. He sits 2 goals behind Bure, 3 goals behind Gary Roberts, 5 behind Tocchet, 6 behind Vive and Larmer. Now, the odds of him getting 6 more goals this season are low. I'm not saying that they're not. But it is an impressive list of guys that he's in and among and ready to pass. Bure played a lot of dead puck on his record as well, so his is impressive. Same with Gary Roberts. Tocchet, Vive, Larmer, a lot of live pucks going on there. Larmer especially. If Steve Larmer had played today's game, I think he would have been a 25 goal scorer, maybe hit 30 occasionally, and he wouldn't be on this list. So the question I ask myself, and I look at Nash's resume, and I'm not going to stop with just this. He was an all-star in 2004, 2007, 2008, 2009, 2011, 2015. Now, up until 2011, he's a Columbus Blue Jacket. Now, the Blue Jackets only made the playoffs once while he was there. That means he's likely, and I didn't do that much research, he's likely the only Blue Jacket that goes to the All-Star game. So there are probably times he made the All-Star game. Maybe he wouldn't have if he'd been with Pittsburgh or LA or whoever, right? He played for Team Canada at the 2010 and 2014 Olympics. He wouldn't have made the 2018 Olympics. We know that. But it's worthy of note. He got 2 gold medals. He's played at the World Championships 2005, 2007, 2008. Canada got a gold medal in 2007 with him as part of the team. The other 2 years, they got silver. I think, and I know people are going to ask, well, is Shannon going to mention the Hall of Fame? Because, he tends to do that when he does these videos. I don't see Hall of Fame for Rick Nash. But the question becomes, how many years does this guy have left? He's been healthy most of this season, but his goal totals have remained the same and his point totals have dropped. So there are red flags. There are red flags when you see a guy putting up 69 points in 14-15 and he has 29 this year. And now he's being counted on to play a second line support role for Boston, who likely won't re-sign him after this contract's done. Although I will say, he does look good in a Bruins jersey. He looks like a Bruin. He's a polarizing figure because of these contracts. That's really what started it. Because he's always trying to live up to a high price contract. He has made $89.4 million over his last 2 contracts. He has 89.4 million reasons not to care what fans think about him. And we can debate about whether or not that's what an almost $100 million career looks like, but in this day and age, yeah, probably. He's polarizing in that, yes, he's got the 800 points in 1,051 games. He's got 41 points in 77 playoff games and only 15 goals. I think for Nash to ever live up to, he's number 1 pick, and he's worth all this money, I think the only way he's ever really going to shed some of that reputation would be if Boston went on a run and he's playing a prime role in getting there. And he has to be a prime player, because that reputation is earned. That's over a lot of years in the playoffs, 6, and only one of those you'd look at statistically and say, yeah, he performed well. One of the sticking points I've had, because I've talked about Rick Nash before, and people have been very, I won't say offended, but kind of a little bit perturbed at how I've talked about his lack of production. And they've said, well, he does a lot of other things out there. He's physical, he's big, and he drives the play, and no, it doesn't show up as points. The problem with that is, you can drive the play, you can be a secondary guy, you can be a gritty player, but not for $7.8 million. That's a lot of money. If he comes back to play again next year, he's going to take a pay cut. But an interesting point to make here is, for goals per game over his career, he's got a 0.413. The only active players who have a better goals per game average over their entire career are Ovechkin, Stamkos, Crosby, and Malkin. That's not bad. It's not a bad group to be right behind. And yes, it's fallen off over the last few years, and that's definitely something that has dragged him down, because before the last 3 years, he likely would have been ahead of a couple of these guys. But 800 points is worth recognizing, because in this day and age, it is basically the equivalent of what 1,000 was back in the 80s. Bobby Smith got to 1,000, and I love Bobby Smith. Great player. Wouldn't have been a 1,000-point player in today's game. But let me know what you guys think, because he is a divisive kind of character, and it's worthy of discussion. Where he ranks, what does his career add up to? How will he be remembered? So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.